accounting entries in the books of the consignor. On sending of the goods, on consigning goods to the consignee, what is the entry? When goods are consigned, when goods are sent on consignment, the entry, like we had said, is to debit the consignment account. Mind you, I repeat, when goods are sent on consignment, the goods are not sold to the consignee. The goods are not the property of the consignee, and therefore when we send goods on consignment to the consignee, it is not consignee's account which is debited. We said when goods are sent, consignment account is debited with goods, the cost of the goods sent on consignment and all expenses. So when goods are sent on consignment to the consignee, the entry would be to debit consignment account. Consignment account debit. 2. We open a new account called goods sent on consignment. For payment of expenses, suppose the consignor has incurred transportation charges, like in our example, Mukta had spent 10,000 transport costs. So what would be the entry? All expenses we debit to consignment account. So consignment account again, debit to, we spend money, there's an outflow of cash, maybe to bank, maybe to cash. So on sending of the goods, consignment account debit to goods sent on consignment. For payment of expenses, consignment account debit to bank. Suppose, like we said, usually an advance is received from the consignee. So if the consignee sends a check, sends a bill of exchange, then the entry would be, if we get a check, we would say bank account debit, or we could say bills receivable account debit. If it's a bill receivable account debit, bank account or bill receivable account debit. 2, we have received it from the consignee. Now we credit consignee's account. Next, on receipt of account sales. What is account sales? Account sales is a statement sent by the consignee to the consignor giving details of the sales effected, details of commission, expenses which have to be reimbursed, any unsold inventory, right? So on receipt of account sales, we get all the remaining information like the sales which has been made, expenses which are incurred by consignee, commission which is payable to consignee. Therefore, what is the balance that the consignee has to pay? So these information, all this 4 information, we get on receipt of account sales. For sales made. So then now once this account sales has come, the consignor can pass the necessary entries or complete the consignment account. For sales made, what is the entry? Logically, what would be the entry for the goods which have been sold? For the goods sent on consignment, sale of these goods sent on consignment, what would be the entry? We said we would credit the consignment account. And the money for these sales which is effected, who gets the money? The money is lying with the consignee. So our entry would be to debit consignee account debit, because this money now the consignee has to pay to the consignor. This is a receivable in the books of the consignor. He has to collect this money from consignee. So consignee account debit to consignment. Consignment account is credited with the sales value. Correct? So consignment is credited. Who is debited? Consignee is debited, since this money has to be collected from the consignee. Expenses which are incurred by the consignee. When expenses are incurred by the consignee, it is an expense of the consignment. Therefore, consignment has to be debited. But this money is payable to the consignee. Therefore, consignee's account has to be credited. So, what would be the entry? Entry for these expenses would be consignment account debit to consignee. For commission which is payable to the consignee, what would we do? Commission again is an expense of consignment. So again we would debit consignment account. We credit consignee's account since it is payable to the consignee. So it's the same entry. Consignment account debit to consignee for commission payable. Since all the sale proceeds are actually lying with the consignee, this amount less the expenses and the commission which are payable to the consignee, the balance amount should be remitted by the consignee to the consignor. The remittance may be in the form of a check or a bill. So it could be bank account debit, or let us say bill of exchange. So bills receivable account debit to consignee, since the consignor receives a check or a bill of exchange. So the consignment has now been debited with the cost of the goods. It has been debited with the expenses of the consignor. It has been debited with the expenses of consignee. It has been debited with commission which is payable to consignee, and it has been credited by the sales which has been made by the consignee. Therefore, the difference would either be profit or loss. If the credit side is more, we have profit, and therefore we close the consignment account, transferring the profit to the profit and loss account. Credit balance, higher credit side. So to close it, we say consignment account debit to profit and loss, general profit and loss, to profit and loss account. That is how the profit on consignment is transferred to the profit and loss account, general profit and loss account of the consignor. Now we have a neater presentation of all the accounting entries. In the books of the consignor, a quick revision on sending of the goods, on consigning, sending of the goods on consignment. Consignment account has to be debited. 2. We have opened a new account to goods sent on consignment. This account needs to be closed, and we have not yet spoken about that. We'll come to that later. Next, for payment of expenses, if the consignor has paid expenses, it's expense on consignment, therefore debit consignment. We don't have individual expense account. The expense may be transportation, it may be customs duty, it may be insurance. Whatever expenses are incurred on the consignment by the consignor, the entry would be consignment account debit to bank. If money is received from the consignee, either it's check, so it's bank account, or bills receivable account debit to consignee. Mind you, this bill of exchange may be discounted with the bank, and such discounting charges may be taken to the general profit and loss account of the consignor. It need not be shown as an expense on consignment. Though alternatively, it could also, discount charges could also be taken as an expense of consignment. This is slightly different from what we discussed in joint venture, where the discount on bill being discounted with the bank, the discount charges on discounting of a bill with the bank is debited to the joint venture account and treated as an expense of the joint venture account. But in case of a consignment, when a bill of exchange is received, the discounting charges may be treated as general finance charges and may not be transferred to the consignment account. Next, on receipt of account sales, we know we get the details of sales by the consignee, detail of the expenses by consignee, detail of commission by the consignee, etc. So for sales which is made by the consignee, consignment account would have to be credited. So what is the entry? Consignee account debit to consignment account. For expenses incurred by the consignee, this is a liability to the consignee, but it is an expense of consignment. Therefore, consignment account debit to consignee. For commission which is payable to consignee, again that is an expense of the consignment. consignment account debit to consignee. For remittance by the consignee will send the money, whatever balance is due, bank account or bills receivable account debit to consignee. For profit on consignment account debit to profit on consignment transferred to profit and loss account. Profit on consignment usually taken to general profit and loss account of the consignor. If it is a loss, what would it mean? It would mean that the consignment account debit side is more. There would be a debit balance, and to close the account, we credit the consignment account and debit profit and loss account in case of loss. So when general profit and loss account is being debited, we are talking of a loss. But if it is being credited, we are talking of a profit on consignment. We've got two things left. We need to close the goods sent on consignment, and we've also not discussed what happens to the inventories on consignment, closing stock on consignment. What do we do for a closing stock in a general trading account? The entry we pass is closing stock account debit to trading account. Our consignment is nothing. Consignment account is nothing but a trading and profit and loss account. So in case there are inventories, there is closing stock on consignment. The entry would be consignment stock account debit. Consignment stock account debit to consignment account. Consignment stock account debit to consignment. Now we have an account called goods sent on consignment which we opened. This account too needs to be closed, and this account is closed by transfer to trading account or manufacturing account. Goods sent on consignment, if you remember, when did this account arise? When we sent the goods on consignment, the entry was consignment account debit to goods sent on consignment account. In order to close that, we debit goods sent on consignment account to trading account or manufacturing account, if that be the case. When we do this, only then the correct gross profit on the ordinary sales can be ascertained. Why do you think we credit the trading account here? You must understand. Let us take the example of Mukta sending 100 cartons to Kanta. Mukta might have purchased not just 100 cartons, maybe 500 cartons, right? 500 cartons in 2000 each, whatever, rupees 5 lakh. This is Mukta's purchases. But out of this 500, 100 cartons is gone. It's gone as goods on consignment. So now what is available for Mukta to sell? Only 400 cartons. Mukta will sell only 400. In Mukta's books, when she makes a trading account, she will have now, make it here, trading account, right? She will have purchases, if you notice, of 500 cartons. But she will be able to show a sale of only 400 cartons or closing stock, including closing stock. This will be of 400 cartons. But that is not correct. Why is this 500 there? Because 100 we have sent on goods on consignment. And how do you ascertain the profit on those? By preparing the consignment account. So the profit on this has already been ascertained by preparing a consignment account. We cannot show this in purchases. So we either credit purchase or we credit the trading account. So what do we write here? By, you remember this? We are crediting this. So by goods sent on consignment. By goods sent on consignment, we account for this 100 cartons. I have not done this in rupees, only in cartons. 100 here. So now you are actually comparing the sale of 400 with purchase of 500 minus this 100. Therefore, correctly, cost and sales. The quantity sold is being compared with the quantity purchased. With the quantity sold is being compared with the cost of the same quantity. So that is why goods sent on consignment is closed by transfer to trading account, so that the correct gross profit can be ascertained in the books of Mukta when she makes her own general trading account and general profit and loss account. Okay, let us just revise this once more. So when there is a closing stock on consignment, the entry is consignment stock account debit to consignment. To close the goods sent on consignment, we say goods sent on consignment account debit to trading or manufacturing account. What is the nature of these accounts? Consignment stock, mind you, that is an asset which is carried forward to the next year. It will be opening balance when we prepare consignment account in the next period. It's an asset, it's shown in the balance sheet. The consignment account is a nominal account. The consignment account is a nominal account. The profit or loss is transferred to profit and loss account. The goods sent on consignment account is a real account. This is the format of a consignment account. Consignment account is debited with the goods sent on consignment cost, all expenses which are incurred by the consignor, expenses which are incurred by the consignee, and commission of the consignee. Yes or no? So that's how the entries are. Consignment account debit to goods sent on consignment. Consignment account debit to bank with the consignor's expense. Consignment account debit to consignee for the expenses that the consignee incurs. Consignment account debit to consignee also for the commission. It is credited by goods sent on consignment if there are returns. When the goods were sent on consignment, we said consignment account debit to goods sent on consignment. If they are returned, the entry would be reversed. Therefore, this is nothing but a reverse of this entry. By goods sent on consignment, returns. For sales, what would be the entry? Consignee account debit to consignment, whether the sales is cash or whether it is credit. If there is a balance of stock, closing stock on consignment, consignment account is credited. The entry was consignment stock account debit to consignment. The balancing figure, if it is a profit, then since the credit side would be more, balancing figure, we close the consignment account, debit consignment account, and transfer the profit to general profit and loss. On the other hand, if the debit side is more, then we would have a loss and we would say general profit and loss account debit to consignment account. Loss on consignment transfer. Of course, we'll have either this or this, either the profit or the loss. The same thing, the same accounting entries, simply represented in a ledger format. What about the other accounts? What would the consignee's account look like? Consignee's account is debited with the amount of sales, whether cash or credit. So, consignee's account is debited with the sale proceeds that the consignee has received and which is returnable to the consignor. It is credited with the expenses and commission which the consignee earns. Therefore, the entry was consignment account debit to consignee. The consignee may send money, may be advance, could be advance. What would be the entry for that? Bank account or bills receivable account debit to consignee. So, the consignee has been credited for money which has been sent either in the form of advance or in the form of balance. Consignee account is also credited for the expenses, consignee's expenses, and commission which are receivable by the consignor. The consignor has a liability to the consignee. But the consignee has to return the sale proceeds to the consignor. So consignee account is debited with the sale proceeds. Whatever sale, consignee account debit to consignment account. The goods sent on consignment account debit to goods sent on consignment for the goods sent. If they are returned, then the entry is reversed. And how is this account closed? Simply by transfer to trading account, purchase account, or manufacturing account.